so I felt kind of naked all of a sudden without them, so I'm just gonna.
We'll grab you some. Don't worry.
We'll just wear something. Yeah, I actually have the broken ones here in the zipper. So the verse I chose from the 4th canto, the section dealing with Prithu Maharaj. We can just do a chant and repeat if you'd like to try to follow the words that are projected on the screen above. Otherwise, you can just listen. Taddarshanodgatam pranam Pratyadit suribhotita Sasaddasyam govainya Indriyesho gunaniva Taddarshanodgatam pranam Pratyadit suribhotita Sasadasyam govainya Indriyesho gunaniva. Maybe a couple of others would like to chant.
Taddarsanagatam prajnam Pratyadi suribhotita Tatsada samyango vaisnavanya Indriyesho gunanima
Anybody else? Mataji's? No? Alright. Word for word. Tat. Him. Darshana. Seeing. Udgatam. Being greatly desired. Pranam. Life. Pratyaditsu. Peacefully going. Eva. Like. Uttita. Got up. Sa. With. Sadasya. Associates or followers. Anuga. Officers. Vainya. King Prithu. Indriya Isha. A living entity. Gurnaniva. As influenced by the modes of material nature. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Seeing the 4 Kumaras, Prithu Maharaj was greatly anxious to receive them. Therefore the king, with all his officers, very hastily got up, as anxiously as a conditioned soul, whose senses are immediately attracted by the modes of material nature. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 3:27 it is said, Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudhatma kartahamiti manyate. Every conditioned soul is influenced by a particular mixture of the modes of material nature. As such, the conditioned soul is attracted to certain types of activity which he is forced to perform because he is completely under the influence of material nature. Here, Prithu Maharaj is compared to such a conditioned soul, not because he was a conditioned soul, but because he was so anxious to receive the Kumaras that it was as if without them he would have lost his life. The conditioned soul is attracted by the objects of sense gratification. His eyes are attracted to see beautiful things. His ears are attracted to hear nice music. His nose is attracted to enjoy the aroma of a nice flower. and his tongue is attracted to taste nice food. Similarly, all his other senses, his hands, his legs, his belly, his genitals, his mind, etc., are so susceptible to the attraction of the objects of enjoyment that he cannot restrain himself. Prithvi Maharaj, in the same way, could not restrain himself from receiving the four Kumaras, who were bright by dint of their spiritual progress. And thus, not only he himself, but also his officers and associates all received the four Kumaras. It is said, birds of a feather flock together. In this world, everyone is attracted by a person of the same category. A drunkard is attracted to persons who are also drunkards. Similarly, a saintly person is attracted by other saintly persons. Prithvi Maharaj was in the topmost position of spiritual advancement, and as such, he was attracted by the Kumaras, who were of the same category. It is said, therefore, that a man is known by his company. Om Jnanatimiram Tasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurvamilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhisham Sthapitam Yena Bhakti Swayam Bhaktivedanta. When I first read this verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, it struck me it's a very vivid comparison. If you've ever walked the streets of Waikiki at night or any time, everything is screaming at you. Come, purchase this, find happiness here. Look at this storefront. Come on our sea cruise. Come dive with dolphins, see the sea turtles. And people are chasing after this wonderful experience, something new, exciting. What does Hawaii have to offer? How can I enjoy it? And then when long-term residents are frustrated in their desires, and perhaps in the darker modes of ignorance, and they take to different forms of intoxication, so much so that Hawaii has been known to have an ice epidemic. So here you are in the most beautiful place in the world, perhaps. Many people say Hawaii is quite the destination. And yet the senses aren't satisfied. No matter how many sea turtle cruises you go on, no matter how big your building is in Hawaii Kai, some fancy location, the senses are never satisfied. But being conditioned, we chase after it anyway. The ears want to hear something nice, the eyes want to see something nice. And so the senses become our guiding force, driving us as if we didn't have control. Arjuna actually asked Krishna, what is that force that drives me? Krishna says, it is lust only, our all-devouring enemy. On the last Sunday, I described the difference between lust and love. It's a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Atmendriya Priti, satisfying one's own senses, is the definition of lust. And Krishnendriya Priti, the satisfying the senses of Krishna, of the devotees, and the spiritual master, that's love. So this driving force that keeps living entities conditioned in this world, these senses that are so powerful, Prithvi Maharaj is compared to such a person. But instead, it's the cause of his liberation. Not that Prithvi Maharaj needed liberation. He was already a liberated soul. Shakyave Shavata. But when he saw the four Kumaras, who, as Prabhupada writes at the end of the purport, were similarly liberated souls, he rushed forward, just like a person who sees some wonderful opportunity for sense gratification. Or let's see how it's worded. Gunani. As influenced by the modes of material nature. So in various modes of material nature, people have various desires. So whatever your most fantastic desire is, I've had so many in my life. I, for a time, wanted to be a great jiu-jitsu practitioner. I wanted to be amazing at chess. I liked the game. I wanted so many things. When you're a child, you have sometimes some silly desires also. I won't go there. But the point is, if I had an opportunity to play the Grandmaster Magnus Carlsen in a game of chess, how eagerly I'd run forward. Wow, the opportunity to play the greatest in the world. How eagerly we run forward for an opportunity to enjoy our senses. Prajamar similarly rushed forward, but with a different aim in mind. Birds of a feather flock together. Prabhupada would often quote that. A man is known by his company. So the company we choose is what defines us. A sadhu is described in the third canto, Tatikshava Karunika. Tatikshava, tolerant, Karunika, merciful. Tatikshava Karunika, Suhridam Sarvadehinam. It's the friend of all living entities. Ajata Shatrava. Ajata means not born. Shatrava is enemy. He has no enemies. Literally, his enemy is not born. And the Shad Goswami Ashtaka says that the 6 Goswamis were beloved by the ruffians and saintly alike. So for the sadhu, there is no enemy. Sadhava, sadhabhushana. Sadhava abides by the scriptures. Sadhabhushana. These are the ornaments, the 6 decorating factors for the sadhu. So we choose our company accordingly. And if you look at the qualities of someone who has his senses under control, who has nothing to gain from you, who has no ulterior motives in having your company, it's very pleasant. You have everything to gain from such a person's company. It's very uplifting. Whereas in the material struggle, self-aggrandizement, opportunities to get ahead by hook or by crook, stepping on each other's heads for a little bit further up that ladder of supposed success in the material world. Any abominable action is possible. They're willing to perform so many corrupt actions. I work in a construction company and I see how much waste happens every day. And it's painful, actually, to see the condition of the world at present. Someone made a joke that Hawaii's state bird is the crane over buildings. Very humorous, but at the same time, we recognize the state of this world. It's a state of intense misconception of the absolute goal. And so on the side, along with my construction day job, I teach yoga at the Still and Moving Center downtown. And today I taught a yin class. Yin yoga is characteristic of holding poses for long periods of time, 3 to 5 minutes in each pose. And during that time, as people were holding their poses, I was chanting verses from the 6th chapter of Gita. A nice little refresher for me and benefit for them hearing transcendental sound. And at the end of 6th chapter, I was suddenly struck, because yoga is a very wonderful practice. Ashtanga yoga, there's nothing wrong with it in and of itself. A pious practice. It's very often on the bodily platform. People go into the practice with an aim at toning their bodies, becoming more flexible, more attractive. But deep down, the purpose of yoga, of asana, pranayama, pratyahara, is controlling the senses, this Ashtanga yoga practice, 8-fold yoga practice, of which asana is one part, is aimed at controlling the mind. And as I got to the end of the 6th chapter, which describes so many ways of controlling the mind, making the mind one's best friend, at the end it says, Yogi nama sarvesham madkatenam taratma. Yogi nam api sarvesham, of all the yogis, the Krishna conscious devotee is the highest. Yogi nam api sarvesham madkatenam taratma. Then, Shadhavan bhajate yomam samayuktatma. That is my opinion. Krishna says, Mataha. My opinion is that the person who is engaged in devotional service with firm faith in me, he's the greatest of all the yogis. So I was thinking about that verse as I was practicing yoga, and I was thinking how sweet that is. That our Krishna conscious practice is so sublime. And this practice of kirtan, of chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, is so sublime. Cheto Darpana Marsham, cleansing the heart of so much material contamination. Which is why at the end of Jai Radha Madhava I sang a couple of Mahamantras. So at the very least, if nothing else in my class is beneficial, at least the Mahamantra was there at the beginning. So this Mahamantra is so powerful. It's been delivered to us by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who we have on the altar in the middle. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought this practice of Harinam Sankirtan because people of this age have very short attention spans. It may not be possible to perform extensive yajnas. It may not be possible to memorize many verses. It may not be possible to sit or stand in meditation for long periods of time. But the chanting, anyone can do. I even saw my little son, along with breaking neck beads, he also dances nicely in kirtan. So even as a little baby, we can perform devotional service. It's so sweet, so sublime, so simple, this process. And as one becomes advanced and begins to control the mind more and more, then one's association becomes more and more uplifting. And one finds opportunities to serve great souls like the four Kumaras. Buddhre Atmanatmanam. One should uplift oneself by the mind, not become degraded. And this association is very clearly distinguished from mundane association, in that one is removed from the trials and tribulations of this world, the dualities of happiness and distress. There's a very nice verse in the 11th canto. Jivita Prabhu, who is famous for his chanting of shlokas, especially of the unique meters, he taught me this verse. Nimajyon majatam gore bhavavdao paramayanam santo brahmavida shanta naurdadhevav sumajjatam. Nimajyon majatam gore. Gore means very fearful. This ocean of samsara, this material world is very fearful. There are so many causes of distress. There are so many. Anyway, I don't need to go into it. We all know all the troubles we face day to day. Nimajyon majatam means being submerged in and rising above Gore, this fearful ocean. And in this ocean, there are those who wish to pull us out and place us on a strong boat. Naur, Dridha. Dridha means very strong, Naur's boat. So the devotees are the powerful boats in this ocean of samsara, pulling people out of this fearful condition. And this is the company we have the opportunity of choosing. Everyone here on this Sunday, sunny Sunday in Hawaii, we all have opportunities to do so many things. We could be in Waikiki. But instead, we're here at the temple attending this Sunday Love Feast program. And I thank you all so much for being here. We have a wonderful feast following. We have chanting, some katha, some talks. And this opportunity to hear means that we're associating, like Prithu Maharaj, with devotees. And in this Sangha, you rise above that fearful ocean of samsara. And you can feel it, a deep sense of peace, the mind pacified from so many unruly desires. Naurdadhevav sumajjatam. In another place, how is that verse? Anyway, the mind is blanking on another verse I wanted to mention, so we'll let it go. Nimajyon majjatam. Actually, I was searching for verses of a similar nature, and I found if you've heard of the Mukundamala Stotra, Prabhupada actually began translating the Mukundamala Stotra by King Kurushekar, a great saint from South India, one of the 12 Alvars, I believe. Prabhupada was translating this book in the 1950s, and he only got through the first 6 verses or so. before he switched over to Srimad Bhagavatam. But the GBC, I believe, appointed Satsuru Maharaj to continue translating. And this book is full of so much nectar. I thought I'd just share one verse on that same line, Vajjatam. Bhava jaladi gatanam dvandvavatahatanam sutta duhrita kalatra trana bhararditanam vishama vishayatoye majjatam aplavanam bhavati sharanameko vishnupoto naranam. The people in this vast ocean of birth and death are being blown about by the winds of material dualities as they flounder in the perilous waters of sense indulgence with no boat to help them. They are sorely distressed by the need to protect their sons, daughters, and wives. Only the boat that is Lord Vishnu can save them. It's a very sweet analogy, this concept of a boat over troubled waters. It comes up frequently. In the previous verse I mentioned, describing the devotees, in this verse, the boat of Lord Vishnu, able to save us. And it's a nice thought, actually, this concept that if you're swimming in an ocean and you're depending on family members, on children, on friends, society to help you, and they're all floundering about in the ocean also, no matter how much they're encouraging you, at some point you need shelter, you need a boat, you need land. So no matter how much support you have in the material sense, in the end, it's not helpful. There's the history of King Chitraketu, who was very desirous of a son, to have a son. And although he had many thousands of wives, millions, I think, he was unable to have a son. And eventually, by some benediction, a son was born of him. And he had great attachment for the son. It was his highest joy. But the co-wives of the wife with whom he had the son became very jealous, very envious. And so they plotted to remove this boy from their husband. So they poisoned him. The envious nature of the material world for sense gratification. So many abominable actions can be committed. We have the whole history of Hiranyakashipu torturing his saintly son because he was fearful. His son was the greatest yogi. He saw everyone with equal vision. He wasn't interested in Hiranya, gold, Hiranyakashipu, gold in a soft bed, material opulence. So, feeling threatened by him, Hiranyakashipu put his own son, Prahlad, very joyful boy, through so much trouble. And similarly, although the boy did so unintentionally, just by departing this world due to the poison, put his father through so much trouble. And his father, King Chitraketu, was lamenting greatly. Oh, my son, my one source of joy in this world, how is it that you've been taken from me? And so he was begging, even for a moment, bring my son back. And so by some benediction, the boy was brought back for just a few moments. And he said, my son. And the boy said, which father are you? So many births I've taken, so many different fathers I've had. And it struck Chitraketu, he realized that in this great span of many lives, the temporary relationships that we develop in this world, in this one lifetime, are ultimately of little significance. We're here to uplift each other, to encourage Krishna consciousness for friends and family alike. But the actual connections that we have based on the material body are ephemeral. When Kunti prays, please sever this bond I have with my sons, the Pandavas. Although they were great saintly devotees, it wasn't necessary that that bond be severed. She was praying in that way as a lesson, as an instruction, that these bodily connections are temporary, but to encourage Krishna consciousness. And so it was stated somewhere in this pastime that although born in this lifetime as his son, in his past lifetime he could have been a great enemy of King Chitraketu, born in this body just to cause him distress. Just see how much pain he felt being separated from his son. Sometimes our greatest pain comes from those closest to us. A family member can cause us so much trouble, so much distress. even not intentionally, just by departing. There's so much pain there. And so, another one of the verses I was reading in the 6th chapter to my students, Suhrin Mitrar Yudasina. Oh, this is right after the verse, Samalo Strasmakanchana, that one who controls his mind, one who is thus placed very close to Paramatma, Paramatma Samahita. He's actually achieved Paramatma platform by controlling the mind. He sees with equal vision pebbles, stones, and gold. All these different material things, they don't have any particular quality that's special to them because they're so engaged in devotional service. They see with equal vision. And in the next verse it says, one who's even more advanced sees Suhrit, friends. Suhrit means close to one's heart. Mitra, benefactors. Ari, enemies. Udasina, the mediators in between. Madhyashta, those who are neutral. The envious, bandhushu. No, bandhushu doesn't mean envious, bandhushu means friends. But anyway, envious is also stated there. One sees all of these different people with equal vision. Being so advanced in devotional service, one no longer distinguishes between these different types of people. Simply is interested in propagating Krishna consciousness, simply interested in uplifting everyone. And this is the nature of the devotee. They simply want to bring everyone closer to Krishna. Take them out of their fearful condition. You're suffering so much. Come, take this Mahamantra. Come, take prasad. Come, chant, dance, be happy. That's the nature of devotional service. It's so attractive that everyone can come. Rush forward, like King Prithu, rushing forward to serve the Kumaras, rushing forward. Oh, it's Sunday. I get to go to the temple. Rushing forward for that opportunity to see the deities, to see the wonderful devotees. This is the perfection of our lives. And by this simple practice, abhyasena dukantena, by steady practice, or Prabhupada translates it, by suitable practice, and by detachment, it's possible to fully control the mind and to obtain the supreme destination, to obtain the most valuable gem, most valuable gold in this world. Satsvarup Maharaj writes in the purport to that verse in Mukundamala Stotra that someone may argue that you're saying this world is such a fearful place, nimajjam majjadam bhore, being dunked under the waves and rising, surfacing, gasping for breath. But sometimes the oceans are very calm. Sometimes you may seem to be in an okay situation. Your health is good. And Satsvarup Maharaj writes in the purport, but even then, even in the calmest of waters, lurking in the background is all-devouring time. So for how long do you get this peaceful situation? It has a limited amount of time. The past few days I've been overcome with the flu. Very unpleasant experience. And one can see when sickness comes, and it inevitably will come, 4 things are certain, 4 types of trouble. Janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi. Birth, death, old age, and vyadhi, disease. So inevitably it comes. And we can see how difficult it is in those times to focus one's mind on chanting, to focus one's mind on devotional service. And in those states of lack of health, all one desires is to be healthy again. You can tell this person, come, enjoy my beautiful mansion. Oh, the waves at Sandy's, 4 to 6 feet. You gotta get out there. Wow, come, enjoy this wonderful plate of delicious food. But the person they'll say, no, I would cash all that in. I would cash in all my wealth just for a moment of health. Unintentionally rhyming there. But no matter how much wealth and opulence you have, it can't save you at the time of death. I had a doctor friend, he said that some of his patients would plead, please, doctor, give me just 2 more days.